Electric Avenue. And then we'll take it higher. Oh, we gonna rock down to Electric
10:17, and we got the whole gang here. Jason, Ryan, Grid Solar, and half of a CJ. Man, how do you guys combat whenever you get some weather like that? Do you have to stay pretty honest to the radar for your crews and all that install-wise?
Oh, yeah. Like, if there's any lightning or if it's precipitation, they can't be on a roof,
Right.
And, especially with electrical work and things like that. So, unfortunately, that does cut into our work life quite a bit. But the guys also get a lot of days off. So, especially lately. Good for them.
When you're doing that kind of work.
So can I tell you a funny story? I'm a media guy, so I'm obviously get a little egotistical every once. Not all the time, but every once in a while the hat comes out. And I was talking to my buddy who works construction, and he sent me a Snapchat, and he goes, "Man, you want to go to the bar at 11 and have a little bit of a day drink?" And I go, "Don't you work? It's 11 o'clock on a Tuesday." "Well, god dang, man, I'm working when it's 105 degrees and you're in that air conditioner." Okay, you win. You win. Okay, you can have your damn day off. I get it.
Right.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to talk about, and for the folks at home going, it's about damn time. I have not actually asked you how the process actually works from start to finish, and that's something that I never even thought of being something to discuss. But now that I'm thinking about it, I truly don't understand how it all works from moment I call you for that consultation, from the moment that install is starting to go, and then that final product. So let's talk about it today.
Well, so I'll take the front half because that's pretty much the parts that I manage there. And so you've got the sales consultation, which, we sit down, we design a system for you. Mm-hmm. Basically, we take an educational approach. We're there to teach you everything you need to know about solar so that you can make a decision you're confident in. Again, whether that's let's do solar or not, we need you to be confident, so we educate you. You decide, let's do it, let's go solar, let's go with Grid LLC. Obviously, there's some paperwork to sign, I's to dot, T's to cross, financing, etc. And then, once we have the paperwork out of the way, that's basically where we hand that off to project management. We're going to take a bunch of photos and things like that for the engineers. The project manager is going to take the photos, get the engineering taken care of, SREC documents or part of the original document signing and everything as well. But yeah, once you have engineering completed and we know that O'Fallon, Edwardsville, whoever it is, Alton is going to let this go on your roof the way it is, we get approvals from Ameren or whoever your utility is, and the permits, get those approved. And once we basically are at that finish line, we have everyone who has to say yes, has said yes, this is okay. That's when we pass it to him.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool.
Yep. And that's basically when I get to order all the materials, make sure it gets delivered on site, before the installation. We schedule installation, all that good stuff. And then from there, we get on somebody's roof or in their yard if it's a ground mount. That process only takes a couple of days. So the part that he talked about, that can take 2 or 3 months sometimes, right? Just because you have to, these other entities also have their part in processing and they have wait times as well, right? So we can't control the whole thing.
Well, and that's what always is fascinating to me because, when I first started talking to you guys, I immediately thought, well, the long part was the install because of just, getting everything set up. But it makes total sense after we started talking why some of the why it takes the amount of time that it does. And it's got to be really exciting for the client, though, and you guys on that journey whenever all right, hey, letter A checked off on yes. Now we're on to B. That checked off as yes. Right. What's that anticipation like? And because I'm sure, like you just said, it takes months could take months to get some of those things going. What's that moment like when everything starts to click and all those emails start to fly a lot faster?
So I always kind of try to warn customers about the emotions they're going to go through through this process.
Yeah.
If you think about when you buy a pool, you're going to hear about permitting. Most of it's just emails at this point, but then once they dig that hole in your yard, it starts to get real, right? Mm-hmm. So once their, boots are on your roof, it starts to get very real. And I actually always tell customers, I'm like, be careful. You will become impatient after the panels are on your roof, but not turned on.
Right.
Because we have to wait for the utility to come out and give us permission to operate because we're operating in conjunction with the grid. So they get to have an inspection as well. The city has an inspection. And so that can take 2 to 4 weeks. So imagine having your pool done, clear water, but don't jump in it just yet.
Yeah.
Right? and that's essentially what we're
process.
telling people.
Can we touch on that for a second? So when you go out there and you have the panels up there, it's still not on because you got to have that final inspection. So
Right.
the install, getting the panels there could only take a couple of hours, right, or a couple of days.
A couple of days usually.
But
yeah.
so about 4 weeks, so it could be to get all the final thumbs up and this is inspected and good to go.
Pretty much, yeah. It's going to start at about 4 weeks, and it can take a little bit longer than that, just depending on the project and the complexity of it, right?
Man, you guys kind of unlocked something here. You got a bunch of people to feel like kids at Christmas again, you know? When's that gift coming in?
It's kind of cool because one of the benefits of us being in this industry is the product that we're selling to people and installing and all this. It is actually exciting.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, somebody's getting their driveway repaved, which is still, that's still a nice thing. But like nobody's like, kind of excited for this new driveway.
No one's bringing their damn neighbor over to look at their driveway.
Exactly. But then, you get solar panels on a roof and, they start seeing the small power bills and stuff. And like people are legitimately excited, which makes it a lot easier to do this job.
Not to cut you off, but what I think's so cool about what you guys do is how word of mouth works in your industry. Because solar, remember, we started talking is such an unknown thing. It could be scary, but man, when those neighbors get that equipment lit up and man, they're good to go. It's like a new Corvette in the driveway.
Right.
You got people coming over and they want to know more, and all of a sudden, everyone's ready to jump on the train, it seems like.
Most of our business comes directly from referrals. So, while we do some online marketing and stuff, generally speaking, as a solar company, we operate like an old school company. You know? Referrals and customer service are our main, tenants. So we have to maintain that, and we do. Our guys are awesome. Our installers, we get rave reviews all the time about those guys.
So whenever I was learning about our segment starting, I went and kind of did the Google the Google gauntlets, what I call it, and I find out all the review. And every time I look on, it's so cool to see how people love the install team. Just to hit on what you just said, it was almost like
we get detailed reviews about that. Yeah, it's not just like a little blurb. Like that's a paragraph. Sometimes it's great. Well, it's really humbling, but also like, gives you a little ego boost.
Well, and I wanted to talk about that too, because that's a really good thing to highlight, because we've all been a part of, not all of us, but we've had jobs done at our house or maybe our neighbor's house, and the guys that are working there are throwing their junk everywhere, and they got their Doritos bag that they got at Casey's, and now it's in the roofing tile of the house, you name it.
But in the gutter or something. Yeah.
But you guys, I mean, the whole install team does a fantastic job of really holding that property to the highest degree of care, and that's something that's really good to point out.
It is, yeah. We definitely, they go the extra mile. My guys, honestly, I worked like last week specifically. We were on a job, and there's a process. It's a fine-tuned machine.
Yeah.
Like, you get one guy unloading a panel, they start laying them down, and it's just like they don't even have to talk. They just do it.
Well, don't get because I haven't talked about a raise yet for you guys, just in case they're tuned in today.
Well, they better be working right now.
One thing.
That would be funny. Great segment today, Bob.
One thing I'd point out, because again, I'm more from the sales and marketing and project management side of things. But again, I've been on the roof. I've done the installs, so I know what they go through on a much more smaller scale. They always know that they can learn more. So they like, as good as they are at it, they do not believe that they're perfect.
That's really cool, man. That's a great thing to point out, because that shows the passion that the team has too for the industry, and that's what you need. Yeah. Wanted to talk about, we were mentioned last time you were on about municipalities a tiny bit, and just the other side of solar, because a lot of us just think residential for our homes, but there's a lot of people that have a lot of large spaces for their businesses, whether they have an event space, maybe it's a huge restaurant and they have another outside portion of it, that I could only imagine just the grimace they have when that power bill comes in. It's like, oh God, it's the middle of July, don't open it. But you guys do some really great work on that side of things as well, correct? And let's go through that process. How does it differ from maybe a residential than when we start talking commercial and municipal?
So yeah, commercial, municipal, industrial, even. You know, a lot of times I drive by and I see warehouses with nothing but, you know, roof on them, and I'm like, there's just so much sun hitting that.
Right.
You know, it's like watching corn die in the field. You know, harvest it already. You know. So.
Good point.
Yeah.
So the process isn't a whole lot different. There can be some additional upfront because we're talking so much bigger numbers with, you know, like we just did a small commercial job that was 39 kilowatts. So it's still 3 or 4 times a residential job. So, you know, when it comes to, again, working with a utility, this has to go on their grid, and there can be things like transformer sizes that need to be considered. So, and again, you know, even a business might only be open 8 hours a day. So what happens on the weekends when they're not using any energy at all, but they're pumping out tons of energy to the grid? So there's just a different give and take with the utility, requires more engineering. So again, we tend to allot for more time for those. But again, actually, those municipalities have access to additional credits.
Now let's talk about that, because I didn't realize that when you were hitting me with some of the SREC before we came on to do the interview today. Take me through some of those benefits that are unlocked from a municipal standpoint.
So municipal standpoint, rural businesses, they have access to an additional 10% federal tax credit. Again, not a CPA. There's a lot of things that, you know, you'd want to check with. But, you know, if you did qualify for that, you know, you're talking about 40% now just from Uncle Sam that you're going to receive back for your municipality, for your public school, for your business, you know, and that's huge. It's a huge tax credit.
Well, and I don't know how you guys feel, but I was just driving last night and drove by CVS, and I'm going, why the hell are there lights on? There's nobody inside. You know, they have to have those
Security lights.
Yeah, those lights that are on in the hallways and everything. And I'm thinking, you know, for a business that has to have that, a locally owned business, you don't have the glamour of a corporate write-off or a corporate, you know, kind of spin. This could be a really good way to really help combat those ridiculous bills, because from what I've been told, just from a handful of business owners, that it's insane right now.
Yeah. Well, and also not just for business owners, but like where he was leading earlier, the municipalities, like public charitable schools, organizations, things like that. They also, you know, even though they don't pay taxes, they can actually claim the tax credit under the Inflation Reduction Act.
Can they really?
They can, yeah. So,
wow.
So you know, if you work for a township or a public school, or you know, you run some kind of charitable organization, and you have a business, or you know, a building that you power all the time, those people actually get a tax credit, just like everybody else.
Well, and if I'm a school administrator or superintendent, this is where I really start to look at those options, because every year you know that you're going to get 800 phone calls about why my tax bill is increased and what's going on here. Well, think about it. My thought is very simple. You can sit there and really do something that is cost saving in the long term for your taxing body, and then open it up to use those funds for other additional, you know, purchases for the student body.
And it's not even in the long term. When you talk about the extra tax credits and the extra, you know, you can get tax deductions because now you have an investment that you are depreciating as well.
Yep.
So you're basically taking a pure expense, your power bill, pure expense, and you're turning it into an investment that has tax benefits. It has depreciation that you can do. I mean,
so it's a shorter term thing. I mean,
this is like, again, if you're an administrator whose budget continues to shrink, or whose budget stays the same, but your expenses continue to grow because they're dealing with inflation too, right? I mean, computers cost more, pencils cost more, everything costs more, but a lot of these administrators are getting the same budget, so they have to do more with less.
Yep.
And you know, on the agriculture side, we were talking about that. Were we a couple weeks ago? Was that you and I?
Yep.
Is it kind of the same type of process because of just how large some of those spaces can be?
Well, you got to be careful again, because you're covering usage, right? It's not necessarily that the utilities are trying to buy energy from you. So, if somebody has a field that they lay fallow and it's going to be fallow for the next 15 years, it's not necessarily advantageous for them to put solar on it, just because the power company might not pay you enough for it to have been worth it.
Right.
We're talking about if a public school or business, if we can get their power bill to zero, close to zero, even reduced by half, you now have that money as an investment. And again, when you talk about all of the tax benefits, everything, then you look at it at the end of the day, you're like, I am literally tomorrow, the day I turn my solar on, I'm spending less money.
Well, and see, now that's a huge thing. If I'm an administrator anywhere, I'm pulling a meeting together saying, hey, it might not be with Grid, but just regardless, I'd hope it is with Grid, but, regardless, we got to start having that conversation because, there's so many people that are picking up the phone and ready to call tomorrow about why things are going up and up and up and why bills keep increasing. But when you can present to your taxing body, which is the true boss, hey, look what we just did for you year over year. We brought down our energy bill to literally zero because we were working with a reliable company and we found those benefits. Now, with these changes coming to net metering, do these still affect municipalities? Do they still affect the commercial side, the school district side of things?
Yep.
Everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
Oh, man.
Yep. It's a statewide change, actually, not just Ameren, but a statewide change.
Yep. ComEd, everybody.
So it's another thing too with, that I hate to make it sound like it's dire, but that urgency is definitely there then for those additional savings, correct?
Right, yeah. And so next year solar is still going to make sense. Right. It's not like it's going away. It's just definitely more favorable to the consumer right now. Right.
So it's like very simple. It's almost like you're getting ready to hand me $100 bill, but you say, CJ, next time I see you, I'm going to hand you 50.
Right.
Which one do you want to take, the 100 or the 50?
Exactly. Right.
I'm still going to give you money, though, at the end of the day.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
And the utility will give you nothing, so you should still do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Man, sleep deprived and a migraine, but I'm still making somewhat sense. Getting dangerous out there, guys. Well, what are you working on? What are your current projects?
Right now, the guys are on a residential project. Last week, we finished up a municipal project for highway department in Monticello, Illinois.
Really cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. Actually, it was so smooth. It's a good looking install, and we're looking forward to getting them permission to operate PTO. We have a bunch of irons in the fire this week as well. So
check out our Facebook page. Because they posted photos of it.
Oh yeah, one of our installers posted photos. Yeah,
and I'll tell you what, I'm biased, so I'll say that. But you see some of the photos that people post of installations, some of these other companies, the installations they're proud of, and then you see ours, and anybody can tell there's a difference.
This is really cool.
It's really obvious.
Well, and see, that's what I think's really cool too, because as someone that's not as familiar as you guys are with this industry, just seeing the way that you guys are able to get some of these builds done is pretty impressive. Now, I'm on your Facebook page. Where's this picture at? I'm ready to showcase it.
Let's see.
I'm ready to showcase it here. Okay, hold on here. I'm going to turn the screen around. I'm on your Facebook page.
Oh, yeah. He got tagged. Let's see.
I got tagged?
It's not there yet.
Oh, mentions. I'll go to mentions there.
There you go.
Is that it?
That's it.
Oh my God! Look
there
at
we go.
that. Looks pretty slick. Hold on here. We're gonna go on the scene so you guys can see how great work they do. This is Grid Solar. Let me take this lower third out so you guys can see the whole damn thing. Look at that. Damn, I love what I do. That was a tagged one. Now,
Perfectly straight. No wires hanging underneath the panels. It was just. It's
man,
flawless. I love it.
Every
Gives me a good
clamp,
feeling.
even every clamp in the exact same spot.
I mean, look at that. Look at that. That is cool.
Yeah.
Well, and the spacing on it. I mean, everything is pretty picturesque on that one.
Yep. They did a really, really good job.
That deserves some kudos to the team, I think.
Have a perfectionist do your solar.
Well, and see, that's where, again, I keep driving this point home, but I'm very, very strict, kind of a stickler on this. I get so annoyed with guys that go, I can take care of that for you, or I got a great crew. And, we can all have great crews, but whenever you aren't locked in for that specific project and it doesn't look good, that's reflective of the work that you do overall. And whenever you're going through this, and I've showed your pictures 10, 20 times now, I feel like, on different projects, all of them have that same, there's so much symmetricalism in it, really, which I think is so cool. Everything's very, A to B, B to C. It's not well, man, hey, we actually needed to kind of shave this part down to make it level. So why don't we just kind of maneuver this and kind of jerry rig it to where, you know what I'm saying? Where it's just kind of landlord-esque.
We did what we call an R&R last week, which is a removal and reinstallation for hail damage.
Yeah.
And so this installation was done by another company several years ago. And it was a string-style inverter, so it's one big inverter on the side of the house. And it took a little longer than usual because instead of running wire through the attic, which was what we would normally do so everything's hidden, everything was done on the outside of the house. Now, the customer preferred that in this particular case. That's okay, right? So we had to mimic that. But the problem was the system wasn't operating correctly, and it was because the pipe that was coming down from the roof to the inverter had been completely full of water for probably years, right?
Oh.
It was full of rust, and so the wires, they can't be wet. That's why they're in conduit, right? It's a type of wire that's not supposed to be in a wet environment. And so my point is, once we were done with that installation, technically they could have left it that way, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't. They fixed it. We didn't have to charge the customer anything extra. It was just part of the reinstallation. And now that system is actually producing more than it did when we got there. And the wires are dry, so there's no fire hazard anymore.
That's what I was thinking of. God dang, man, that house could have gone.
Right, yeah. And we run into stuff like that, pretty regularly, unfortunately.
I love how the wires are dry is his final bullet point.
Yeah. It's kind of a big deal, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, think about it. I mean, that's why again, you call Grid Solar, because you don't have to worry about that type of stuff.
Yeah. And the guys just did that on their own. I didn't have to tell them to. They knew the right thing to do.
Man, you guys got to be proud of that type of stuff. Seriously. I mean, and honestly, that's why I'd rather call you because, listen, not every conversation when it comes to these type of purchases, because they are bigger projects, are going to be, yeah, man, that sounds perfect. Hey, yeah, we'll take care of that just the way you want it. Sometimes you got to have those more in-depth educational conversations to truly know, hey, is this going to work here? Is this going to be what's best for you? And that's why I'm calling you guys, because you wouldn't have said, yeah, you know what? I think we just run those right underneath of there, and don't worry about that standing water. We'll take care of that.
Fine. Yeah.
And as we're getting back to the municipal side of things too, how does is it any different whenever they call you? Do you have to go through any type of meetings at first, or is it kind of just let's get the information out to their council, to that department head, and let's start that way?
So I mean, we have a meeting with whoever that person that's presenting this to the deciding body. And then, Jason did it in the last case, I could do it, either one of us, but then would present to that body as well, because again, we're going to be the ones that are able to educate fully so that, whoever that is making that decision, the school board, the board of directors of your company, whoever, we will present everything to them as well. Again, educate them so that they can make a decision.
And then for maybe just the mom and pop business owner, same thing.
Exact thing. Absolutely. Yep. We've done customers where we did their house and their business at the exact same time.
Yeah.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah,
that's actually really cool. Yeah. And now, just going forward, guys, we've already talked a couple of times about that statewide change to net metering and all of the fun that will, I'm sure, come with that. But you still have a couple of months to really make that phone call, make that decision, and or have the conversation to see if it is the one to make. And you do that by going to Grid Solar LLC.com and just click on that free solar design. And now, is the design part fun?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
I could only imagine. Do you have any really unique ones that you've come up with, or?
Yeah, it's hard to pick them out. One of my favorite parts is always finding that design that the customer you can see the light bulb go on and be like, that I like. You know what I'm saying? It's as long as it doesn't affect their production in a huge way, there's a lot of stuff we can do. Turn panels landscape. Let's do 2 rows instead of 3 here. Right. Let's try to put a few on this roof over here. So we always work with people on stuff like that. Absolutely.
Depending on the roof, it can be quite literally like a puzzle.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
And we do it right there in front of them at the table. That's one of the reasons that we don't really like to do, the Zoom appointments or whatever, because it's a lot easier to do that sitting next to you than sharing a screen or anything like that. And one PSA that I'd like to give is that we're getting, towards the end of the Ameren, and so these door knockers, like everyone can kind of smell that the industry is going to change. It's going to change in a big way starting next year. So everyone's giving this last push. All these door knockers.
I just kicked 2 out of the neighborhood.
Yeah,
Not even joking. I did.
And like we talked about this when you
They
and
call
I
it a
talked.
blitz, actually.
They don't even have an idea of who's going to install for them, but they'll talk about their installers like they're great. Oh yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah.
We don't actually know who we're going to hand this contract to install it.
Yeah, we don't.
But they'll
know,
be amazing,
We don't know who
promise.
has our solicitor permit, but somebody does.
Right,
all
yeah.
those things. I seriously just had a big fight about that the other day. I get really tired of it. That's why you call Grid Solar.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
guess
We don't
what?
do that.
They aren't door knockers. You know who's the door knocker in this case? You are, because you're knocking on Grid
Right,
Solar's
there you
doors,
go.
going, "Hey man, we got to get some education going here, and we got to figure out if this is right for us." We'll be talking again in about 2 weeks, I think. Right?
Yep.
Oh, there we go. 10:42 is the time. And is there anything else we got to talk about today, guys?
I don't think so.
Just hit the website, fill out the form.
That's where I come in. Grid Solar LLC.com. That's Grid Solar LLC.com. And I'll be hot damn if I am not the smallest guy in this room. I shouldn't have looked up. I could have just hit the button and been feeling good about myself
Just
today.
closer. That's okay.
That's what I'll tell myself when I cry tonight.